The night belonged to them, but what about the morning after? In 1979, they fought their way across a hostile city. They survived cops, killers, and chaos. But real life doesn't end with the last train home. This isn't a story about gang colors, it's a story about scars. What if the warriors lived on and the world kept moving? We all remember the moment, dawn breaking over Coney Island as Swan, Michael Beck, battered but unbowed, leads the warriors home after surviving a night of chaos, betrayal, and blood. The Gramercy riffs call off the hit. Cyrus is avenged. Justice is served. But real life doesn't end with a slow walk down the beach. What if the warriors had to live with what came after? What if the gang life didn't just fade with the sunrise? The warriors return to Coney Island as underground legends. But notoriety is a double-edged bat. Swan becomes the de facto leader full-time. Quiet, strategic, and scarred, he tries to transition the gang into a business front. Low-level protection, some light racketeering, but Swan struggles with guilt over Cleon's disappearance and Ajax arrest. Mercy moves in with Swan. She wants out of gang life and begins working at a local diner. She encourages Swan to go legit, but her own trauma and past affiliations make it hard to escape old patterns. Rembrandt begins painting elaborate murals inspired by that night, gaining attention from local art students. He's torn between gang loyalty and his rising talent. Cochise and Vermin enjoy their fame and lean into the lifestyle. Parties, women, and petty crime. But the streets are changing. The drug trade is expanding. Violence is shifting from fists and chains to bullets. Meanwhile, Cleon's body washes up in the Bronx River 6 weeks after the conclave. The Riffs never claim responsibility. The murder goes unsolved. As crack cocaine invades NYC, gang culture shifts from identity and turf to profit and death. The old-school gangs, with their flashy uniforms and street codes, begin to fade. Ajax is released from Rikers in 1982 after serving 3 years for attempted assault. Hardened and angry, he rejoins the Warriors only to find them splintered. He pushes for a violent takeover of nearby turf, sparking internal division. Snow becomes the only voice of reason. Stoic and sharp, he begins training in martial arts and leaves the gang entirely. By 1985, he runs a self-defense dojo in Harlem. Vermin is gunned down in 1984 during a deal gone wrong with a new gang called the Sharks, a ruthless Haitian crew with ties to the Caribbean drug trade. Cochise narrowly escapes death in a shootout and flees to Atlanta, where he fades into obscurity under a new name. Swan tries to broker peace with the Riff's new leader, Masai, now a full-blown kingpin. But when a deal goes bad, Swan is ambushed and shot in 1986. He survives, but walks with a limp for the rest of his life. Time passes. The Warriors are nearly extinct. Rembrandt becomes an underground graffiti legend. He holds a solo exhibition in Soho in 1992 called Come Out to Paint. But the pressure of fame, survivor's guilt, and HIV rumors haunt him. He dies from complications related to AIDS in 1995, age 34. Mercy becomes a substance abuse counselor in Queens. She works with at-risk girls, many of whom remind her of herself. Her bond with Swan endures, but he's emotionally closed off. Swan, now in his 40s, works maintenance for the Coney Island cyclone. He never speaks to the press. Once a year, he visits Cleon's unmarked grave and leaves a red bandana. Masai is indicted in 1998 on federal drug charges. In a twist of fate, testimony from ex-gang members, including Cochise, now a Christian preacher in Georgia, helps put him away. Cowboy was never the loudest. He followed orders, stayed loyal, and wore his leather hat like armor. After the Warriors' long night, he kept a low profile. Too low. While others sought either redemption or revenge, Cowboy just wanted to disappear. In the early 1980s, he moved upstate, working as a mechanic. Locals knew him only as Hat. He rarely talked about Coney Island, never mentioned the gang life, never took off the vest he kept locked in a toolbox. In 1989, a tragic bar fight left him partially blind in one eye. He refused to press charges. "Some hits you take," he reportedly said. "Some hits you don't see coming." He died in 1998, age 39, of cirrhosis. No known family. Mercy was the only one from the old crew who showed up at his funeral. After Luther confessed to killing Cyrus, the Gramercy Riffs declared open war on the Rogues. It was swift and surgical. Luther was arrested just days after the conclave, not for Cyrus's murder, no witnesses came forward, but for outstanding warrants, drug possession, and illegal firearms. He served time in Rikers, then Sing Sing. In 1985, he was reportedly shanked during a prison brawl and placed in solitary for 6 months. After release in 1990, Luther disappeared from NYC completely. Rumors claim he lived briefly in Florida under a fake name and died in 1992 during a meth lab explosion in Ocala. The body was never confirmed. Cropsey, the Rogues' second-in-command, was tried to rebrand the gang under a new name, the Crooks in Queens. But without Luther's chaos to mask his mediocrity, Cropsey lost control. By 1983, he was working as muscle for a local loan shark. He was arrested in 1987 during a home invasion gone wrong and sentenced to 15 years. Paroled in 2001, he now reportedly lives in a halfway house in New Jersey, still wearing a leather jacket 2 sizes too small.
They are the famous warriors, the guys that shot Cyrus.
Shit, the chicks are packed!
After their failed ambush of the Warriors, the all-female gang, the Lizzies, faced blowback. The Riffs declared neutrality, but the streets didn't. Dana, the boldest of the Lizzies, tried to rebuild the crew into a feminist militia. She ran Lizzie House, a squat in Lower Manhattan that served as both a gang safe house and underground queer shelter. By 1985, she dropped the gang colors and joined a radical activist group focused on women's self-defense and housing justice. In 1993, Dana was tragically killed during a protest raid outside Tompkins Square Park. Her obituary simply read, "Community organizer, survivor, fighter." Holly turned her attention to performance. In the late 80s, she became a rising drag king and punk cabaret singer under the stage name Rogue Femme. She toured underground venues from Brooklyn to Berlin, blending spoken word, glam rock, street tales. She was last seen performing in 1999 at a benefit show for LGBTQ youth. Today, the Warriors are urban folklore. A 2005 video game revives their story. Streetwear brands mimic their look. Hip-hop lyrics name-drop Swan, Ajax, and the Baseball Furies. But the real men? Mostly forgotten. Swan dies of a heart attack in 2011 at age 58. He's buried in an unmarked grave beside Cleon. Mercy speaks at a small service, attended by Snow and a few old riffs. Snow continues his martial arts legacy, mentoring kids until his passing in 2020. Mercy still walks the boardwalk at dawn. Her hair is silver, her eyes are tired, but she carries herself like a survivor because she is.
It turns out that the early reports were wrong, all wrong. Now, for that group out there that had such a hard time getting home, sorry about that. I guess the only thing we can do is play you a song.
The city changed, the gangs faded, but the shadows they left behind, those never disappeared. Some moved on, some were taken too soon, some became ghosts walking Coney Island's boardwalk long after the war ended. The Warriors were more than just a gang, they were a brotherhood. And like all legends, they never truly die. Drop your favorite warrior in the comments. Share your thoughts, and subscribe to Real Reelz for more deep dive what if that rewrite pop culture history.